Hi everyone, welcome to Sarah's Kitchen, where we're going to be talking about food waste. So what is food waste? Food waste is when you throw away any food that's still fit for human consumption. And today I'm going to teach you how you can reduce food waste in your own kitchen. So today I'm cooking chicken and roast potatoes, and I got it from a meal prepping app that I love. So what a meal prepping app does is it will give you recipes and ingredients for meals you can make during the week, and it'll give you exact amounts and measurements so you won't overspend at the grocery store. And you can also adjust it to how many people you're feeding, what you want to be eating that week, and it's really good for me being a college kid, because sometimes I don't know what to cook during the week, and if I do, it'll be a lot of junk that I'll end up throwing away anyways. So one of the tools I found online is called Meal Prep Mate. It's a tool from the NRDC that is trying to reduce food waste. So if you guys want to check that out, I'll leave a link to it in the description down below.
Okay, so for this recipe, we're gonna need 1.5 pounds of potatoes, 3 chicken breasts or chicken thighs, some olive oil, 2 cups of yogurt, 4 tablespoons of butter, a lemon, some tarragon and dill, garlic, peas, parsley, and salt and pepper.
Okay, so now for the most important part. You gotta get custom-made apron so you don't splash food all over your nice clothes, okay? And now, the second most important thing is to preheat your oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so now we're gonna take our washed potatoes, we're gonna cut them in half, once lengthwise, and then once down width. So I'll show you, for example, this is advanced stuff. Beginners don't try this. So one cut, and then another, okay? Now, we're just gonna do that with all the potatoes. In the meantime, if you guys want to hear some facts about what food waste does to our environment.
Woo!
All right. So when we waste food, we're also wasting all the energy and water it takes to grow, harvest, and transport and package it. And then when we throw the food away, it'll just go to a landfill and rot. And when it rots, it will produce methane, which is a greenhouse gas that's even more potent than carbon dioxide, which most people are familiar with. And what greenhouse gases do is, think of it like a blanket over the earth, keeping it warm and keeping the heat in. And so it's not great. You know, we don't want the earth to keep getting warmer. And about 11% of all greenhouse gas emissions that come from the food system could be reduced if we stopped wasting food. In the US alone, the production of the lost or wasted food generates about 37 million cars worth of greenhouse gas emissions. Just gonna lay our potatoes flat on our baking pan. Then, once they're all on, we're gonna add a drizzle of olive oil and some salt and pepper. So just, a little splash of olive oil, and as much salt and pepper as you want. This is where you get to decide what you want your food to taste. It's very exciting. And then you're just gonna rub the potatoes to make sure they're coated in the olive oil and seasoning. Just gonna lay the chicken on top of the potatoes. In the meantime, guys, we gotta learn more about food waste. It's very important, and that's, after all, why we're doing this in the first place, right? So, with agriculture accounting for 70% of the water used throughout the world, food waste also represents a big waste of freshwater and groundwater resources. It's said that the volume of water is roughly 3 times the volume of Lake Geneva that's used to produce food that's not even eaten. So that's a lot of water, and if we can cut down on it at home, that'll make a big difference. Now we're gonna need some help from our sous chef, Chef Mike. We're gonna put the butter in a microwave safe bowl, and we're gonna put it in Chef Mike for 10 seconds. Okay, so now that the butter's been softened and melted a little bit, we're gonna rub it on the chicken. And if that sounds gross, it's because it is, but it'll taste good, so just trust me. So I'll demonstrate. Just gonna get a nice glob of butter, and you're gonna, massage it on there. And then you're gonna do that for all three on both sides. And then we're just gonna season all three of these on both sides with salt and pepper. Okay, so now we're gonna put our chicken and potatoes in the oven for around 45 minutes to 1 hour, depending on your oven and how thick the chicken is. But start checking it at 45 minutes. So while we're waiting, I'm just gonna shoot off some more facts about food waste. If you look at land usage in regards to food waste, about 1.4 billion hectares of land, which is roughly 1/3 of the world's total agricultural land, is used to grow food that is eventually wasted. And this not only results in unnecessary degradation of land, but clearing land for agricultural purposes. And so it's also a cause of deforestation, which eliminates wildlife habitats, and it also eliminates greenhouse gas absorbing trees. And then this loss of habitat also decreases the global biodiversity because those species are losing their homes. And this also results in more fertilizer, because more land is being used throughout the world to try and meet this demand. More fertilizer is going to be used, which can increase negative effects like nitrogen pollutants, and the increased fertilizer can also run off into surface waters, which can cause eutrophication, which is pretty much, there's so much nutrients in the water that algae grows like crazy, and it creates anoxic environments in the water, which is little oxygen. And as you know, we need oxygen, fish needs oxygen, a lot of organisms need oxygen to live. So it could result in them dying off as well. So big problem that needs to be addressed. So millions of gallons of oil, crude oil, not olive oil, are also wasted every year to produce food that's thrown away. And all these facts and figures, I'm telling you, don't even account for the negative impacts on biodiversity due to the monocropping, which is when there's only one type of crop grown on a land, and it's usually like in Illinois you see a lot of soybean and corn, so kind of think to that degree. So that has an effect on biodiversity as well. Okay, so now we're gonna start making the sauce, which is my personal favorite part of this recipe. So right here we have parsley and 4 cloves of garlic, and we have the little peelings of garlic and extra stem of the parsley. And I know what you're thinking, that's going right in the garbage. No, we're gonna reduce food waste by composting this. So the 3 basic ingredients for compost are the browns, greens, and water. Browns are materials like dead leaves, branches, and twigs. Greens are materials like grass clippings, vegetable waste, fruit scraps, and coffee grounds. And water is water, obviously. And you're going to want to have the right amount of all 3 to have good compost. And it's usually an equal amount of brown to green. And you're going to layer those alternately, and then just use the water to provide moisture so that the organic matter can start to break down. Now, composting is good because it enriches the soil and helps it retain moisture, and it also suppresses plant disease and pests. It also reduces the need for chemical fertilizer. Now, I know what you're thinking. I'm in an apartment in Chicago. I don't have a backyard garden or anywhere to compost. Well, I recommend that you check to see if you have any community gardens in your area and see if they compost. And if they do, then bring your scraps over there and add it to the compost pile. So we're just gonna chop the parsley and garlic fine. We don't want any big chunks because it is gonna be a sauce. So, and make it like rustic chops, and rustic is chef for ugly because I don't have good knife skills. So now we're gonna scoop that into the bowl and the countertop, of course. The counter is hungry, don't forget. It's okay, it's Sarah's kitchen. I'm not gonna be cleaning it, it's good. Okay, so then once you get all that in there, you're gonna add your 2 cups of yogurt. Okay, so now we're gonna add the juice of 1 whole lemon and then the tarragon and dill into our sauce mix. And the original recipe called for fresh spices, but I had the dried stuff in my cabinet, and it's just as good for a sauce. You don't need anything too fancy, and I think it also reduces food waste because it lasts a lot longer than the fresher ingredients. So try thinking about that kind of stuff when you're making your own recipes at home. Like, where can I cut back on stuff? Where can I get stuff that will last longer? So once you add all the lemon juice, we're going to take the seeds out, and then you're going to add about a half teaspoon of both the tarragon and dill. So now we're just going to add some salt to taste to our sauce, and we're going to mix it all up. And don't forget about the lemon rinds because that can also go in a compost pile. Looking good. Okay, so now we're going to cook our peas. Now here's a frozen bag of peas, and I'll tell you why I like using frozen stuff when I can. So research published by the British Food Journal showed that frozen foods actually generate 47% less food waste in home compared to ambient and chilled foods. And that's because you can keep it in there for months, and you can use a little if you're not going to use it all and throw it back in the freezer to use later on. So anyways, we're going to cook this whole bag of peas. We're gonna use Chef Mike again for 5 to 6 minutes, so we'll call it 5.5 minutes. Now, while Chef Mike's cooking the peas, I just wanted to talk more about food waste. So I've gone over a lot of environmental effects, but it doesn't just have environmental effects, there's also economic implications. For example, in the US, 40% of food is lost or wasted annually, which costs about $218 billion, or 1.3% of the GDP every year. So it's not a huge percentage, but it's still a considerable percentage where why not cut the waste if we can. And then the Businesses and Sustainable Development Commission estimates that by 2030, reducing food waste will represent between 155 to 405 billion economic opportunity. So there's money to be made in reducing food waste, which is kind of almost exciting to hear because it makes me feel like someone will step in and reduce all this food waste. All right, once everything's cooked, just plate it up and you got a gorgeous, delicious meal. And I just wanted to mention that with this meal prep app I have, when you do have leftover chicken, the recipe for the next day is chicken risotto. So you use the leftovers in the risotto, so nothing is wasted. And actually, I have one more fact because you haven't had enough facts today. So food waste isn't just an environmental and economic issue, it's also a sociological issue. Many safe and wholesome food that's thrown away could help feed hungry people and reduce food insecurity. And food insecurity is a big problem, especially now because of COVID. And each year, Feeding America and its network of food bank resources, they rescue about 3.6 billion pounds of food every year. And that's only a small percentage of food that could have been donated that just ended up in a landfill. So I hope you had fun watching this video. I hope you make this recipe. Salute chin chin. like, comment, and subscribe.